that's not the important part. You're here today about memory loss, when and how to ask for help. So as Vince mentioned, your first page there with the hole punch, it introduces, and I'll have Josie introduce herself. She already introduced herself, but a little bit more. And then we're going to come back and talk about the action steps. We have several great resources in the packet for you. We'll be highlighting those as we go along. Again, we want you to have information. And I know this topic is not necessarily a comfortable topic for many of us. But that's all the more reason we need to be here and get information. And so I appreciate your taking the time, making the commitment to be here. And also we know within the room there's some of us who are dealing with this with loved ones, and we're at different places in this journey. Others of us, it was interesting when I talked with some people who called to register, and they go, I really need this. I'm not quite sure where we are. We might need this information. That is such an important step. And that's what we want to share today. As we plan this, it's the easier route is just to give you the mechanics of, okay, these people need to be on your care team. You need to do this. Get these papers in order. But to me, there's often a missing, or what I call an elephant in the room. There are a lot of us wondering, is this a problem? Is this normal aging? Is it dementia? Is it Alzheimer's? What do I do? Put my head in the sand and do nothing? Whether or not we're the one worried about ourselves or we're the one observing it in a loved one. We need to have the information. And so when we look at the statistics, and we'll probably highlight some of those. But with that, I would like for Josie, I got to say one thing. Josie and I first met, I think it was 2016. We were both appointed to the First Commission on Aging in the city of Georgetown. And we served on that group. And I was so impressed by Josie's commitment to seniors and providing the resources and tools. And so our paths have crossed many times, and now she's been an educational partner for 3 years. And her journey's taken different twists and turns. That's part of life. And so I'm just pleased you could be with us and appreciate your support as a partner.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Thank
you
you.
wanna and then just say a little bit more while I...
Well, you hand this out. So first of all, I want to say thank you for being here. I know this is a tough topic to talk about. You'd rather be outside working in your garden or maybe hanging around the pool or playing golf. But I'm glad you're here. I also want to acknowledge my husband is with me today, which is, we know that caregiving is a family affair. And my husband and I were caregivers for both of his parents. One of them had mild cognitive impairment, and then the other one had vascular dementia. My personal story is, some of you may know, my mother lived with Alzheimer's for 14 years. I was very angry when that diagnosis was given to her. She was a devout Catholic woman, had raised 11 children plus a grandson, which made it 12. And I always thought, why her? Why this woman who had a strong faith, who loved her community and family, was inflicted with this horrible disease. And at the time, I really didn't have an answer, nor do I have an answer now. But I can tell you that I was a caregiver for 14 years, and that journey taught me to be more compassionate, more understanding, and of course, love for seniors and caregivers, because I know what you go through. And so I think we all have a purpose, and I think my purpose is to serve seniors who are dealing with this horrible disease. So I'm happy that you're here, and I know on the table that people avoid, and I'm okay with that. But anyway, I do want you to come by and just say hi. And so I've lived here in Georgetown for about 12 years, and I love the community. This is where I plan to retire, and hopefully, someday I'll expire here as well. I'm a kind of a small town girl. I am very happy to serve my community. I also am involved with the Alzheimer's Association Impact Movement, which is an affiliation with the Alzheimer's Association, and I am a very strong advocate for policy changes. So I meet with legislators that represent our community and tell them, hey, we've got a problem, and we need to address it. And I was at the Capitol on May 6th advocating for policy changes. And out of the 3 priorities that we had, one of them did pass. The legislators did pass one of the priorities. And that is for guardians, people who take guardianship of their loved ones are now going to be required to have education about Alzheimer's disease. That's going to be a requirement in order to be a guardian. That's so important because if you don't know what you're dealing with, your journey is going to be a lot harder. Now, on the happy side, and there is happy side, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, is that the earlier that someone gets screened for any kind of memory issue, the earlier you get to have a say-so on your journey. And you get to surround yourself with people that care for you, community resources that can provide you care, and also make decisions way ahead of time. And you can also live, believe it or not, you can live a high quality of life with that disease. And I've seen it. I'm a testimony for that. I see it in my clients that I care for. I see it in people that I get involved with and make sure that they have a high quality of life. You can continue to live your life. It'll be slightly different, but you can continue to live your life. One of the best things about not knowing or fear is educating yourself. That will empower you to take control over what is happening in the brain, what is happening in your life. So I hope that we leave on a good note because we can have a high quality of life with this disease.
You know, I often like to look at meaningful quotes, and as you were talking, Josie, it reminded me of one, and it comes from the book Being Mortal by, and I won't pronounce the name correctly, Atul Gawande.
Mm-hmm.
We denied the signs for too long. This was from a family member. But once we named it, we could begin to meet with grace and love. And we just see so many stories of how do we enhance that. So when we go back to live smarter, live wiser, whatever, and live more fulfilled, that applies to this too.
It sure does.
So both as a caregiver, and I have seen amazing stories of caregivers and their support and how we cherish that time because we have that opportunity. So we're going to get into that a little bit more.
Okay.
But I want to go back to, I think, yes, I have my coach back there. And this, we could emphasize this handout too, but I think often there's that confusion of, like I said, is it aging? Is it dementia? Is it Alzheimer's? Do I panic? Do I not panic? So tell us a little bit, how do we differentiate, especially between normal aging, and I know there are a variety, and we're not going to break it down into all the different parts, but how do we know if it's something of concern or if it's just aging?
So normally, as we age, and I'm in this group, I'm over 60, and I'm in this group, and as we age, our brain tends to forget some things. It's kind of like a computer, if you will. It's going to store a lot of information, and sometimes it deletes things that we no longer need, right? So how do we tell if we are having problems that could be things like dementia? Now, let's make sure we understand the term dementia. Dementia is actually, it's kind of an umbrella term for symptoms that someone is displaying, like processing normal thought processes, forgetting things a little bit more often, not recognizing familiar things, or struggling to find the right words. Those are symptoms, right? So they put them in this nice term called dementia. It's kind of like saying cancer, right? There's a tumor, it could grow, there's a lump, it could grow, weight loss. So if we kind of look at that, we can see how the medical field has come up with the term. These are symptoms, right? But before we hit the panic button, okay, here's what I'd like for you to think about. Go to your doctor and get a physical to make sure, and also a memory test or a cognitive screening to make sure that it is not early dementia, or that it is not Alzheimer's, because you could have issues with vitamin B12. When it's low, you don't think clearly. You're more likely to forget. Your thyroid could be low. That could be another cause of memory loss. And a lot of people have low functioning thyroid called hypothyroidism. So if you're on a medication, is that level okay, right? Do you have an infection going on? For women, it's common to have a what we call a UTI, urinary tract infection. As we age, again, I'm talking about our age group. I am now in this group, right? The symptoms are different. We don't have the same symptoms of a woman that has a urinary tract infection at the age of 30 than we do after we hit 60. It totally changes. There can be some confusion. You could feel foggy. The frequency of urination, you may or may not have pain, right? Sometimes the fever doesn't show up. So those things need to be checked out because it could be affecting your memory. That's another reason, right? So medications. Did you start a new medication and now it's causing you problems with your memory? Did you look at the side effects of the medication when you started it? Did you ask the pharmacist? So don't ever just assume that just because there's this memory issue that all of a sudden it's going to be Alzheimer's. I'm not saying that it won't be, but what I am saying, we have to rule out these other things as well.
And in your handout, there's this nifty, pretty page about age-related forgetfulness or signs of dementia. And from the National Institute on Aging, you shared that with us. And I think there are some nice little tips here that I laugh when I think it's just I'm way over the age too, so there. But, it's just one of those senior moments. Like this morning, I was going crazy. I was getting ready for this, and I'd had my glasses on. I put them down to put stuff in my little case, and I could not find my glasses. Now, that's problematic. And think, oh my God, am I losing? What's going on here? I did find them. They were in the pocket of the robe I was wearing. But, we struggle with this. And I know, yeah.
So what the physicians are looking for, we can't forget, sometimes we'll forget to send in a bill. I've done that, right? It's like, oh no, I forgot, we forgot to send this bill. That is not dementia, right? It is the ongoing of these events that happen. This is the key word. It is disrupting your life. That's what the medical field is looking for. Are these occurrences disrupting your normal pattern of your daily activities? Paying your bills on time, remembering how to get home safely. If you go to HEB, right, wherever you live, and then you're driving home and you can't remember how to get home, that's a warning right there. Okay, that's a warning right there. If you cannot remember how to get home, if you lived in Georgetown for the last 5 years, you know where the 2 HEBs are, right? There's one on 29 and one on Williams Drive. And you try to avoid the one that's the busiest, right? But if you can't get home and you end up in Liberty Hill, we have a problem. See the difference between the two? What about if you forget to pay your bill the first time and you think, oh, yeah, I remember now. But then there are these other bills that are piling up. That's a warning right there. That is not normal aging. And that is because it's starting to disrupt your normal pattern of what you do every day. Problem solving. Now, what I find interesting, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about my practice, is that what I find interesting in working with clients, people that have a higher education, let's say, PhD, physicians, attorneys, nurses, firemen, people that have used a lot of abstract thinking in their careers, They're pretty good about solving things. And so the family might see, well, they're doing pretty good. They can still solve some things. Yes, but that's because they've had a formal education and they're still using the frontal part of the brain where we have a lot of executive functioning and we can recall those things, right? However, for someone who's really struggling, they can't put those pieces together. They start forgetting names and dates, wedding dates, or divorce dates. I mean, whatever you want to remember. But things that your children's names. Here's another one. Have you ever heard of the term word searching? It's when you do this. You're trying to come up. See how my eyes are up here? And what was that name? Or somebody says, hey, Virginia, can you give me that? This is what what I'm trying to say is that, give me that battery. That's a warning. This is a bottle of water. So all of a sudden, we cannot identify that simple bottle of water that we're probably pretty used to seeing. That's a warning. So there's differences there. Now, if I come up to you and I say, oh yeah, how you doing? Can't think of your name, but then it comes to me. Oh, Betty Jean, how are you doing? Gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. That is not dementia. Now, if it's reoccurring and it's starting to disrupt your life, that's the problem. So anything that starts to interfere with your normal pattern of how you live, that's when you really need to go to your physician and get evaluated.
And picking up on that, when we go for our annual, especially with Medicare visits and all of that, and is that the time to almost like a baseline data? And I like what you said about the potential impact of medications, prescriptions, other conditions that are changing in our body. But how do we get involved with our physician, if it's, helping us make sense of this so we know?
Okay, so here's what I see. Okay, so we have research, right? And I look at that, evidence-based practice. And then I look at what I see in practice. This is what I'm doing. We have a lot of physicians who are not comfortable diagnosing mild cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's disease. They don't want to do the test. And so because we have an aging population, remember I'm in that age group now, where I'm the second wave of the baby boomers who are aging. And I'm advocating for myself quite a bit. Medicare is one of the best insurances that we have. It's a government insurance, we all know it. And here's why. Years ago, there is an ongoing increase of people with memory loss, especially our age group. And what happened is that physicians were saying to the legislators, we don't have time to assess people. We are in a 10-minute visit. We don't have time to do these tests. And so then the legislators said, well, how do we deal with this? Because it's a growing problem, right? And so what was decided is that at your annual wellness visit, that a cognitive screening could be done within that time frame. And there's several tools that the doctor can do. And that's just a kind of a test, And some people who are very educated like tests, and so they do very well on it. But it is the history. What changes have you seen? And they usually want to ask the care partner or the husband or the wife, what are the changes that you're seeing? Because that, remember, is only a tool. It's the behaviors that we also want to look at. So they have to go together, not just the tests, but they have to go together, right? So think of it as, for women, your mammogram. For men, your PSA level. Those are all screening tools. So the cognitive tests include that into your wellness visit. The earlier you know if you're having cognitive problems, the earlier you can plan and also continue to live your life. So we want to have that partnership with physicians. If your physician is not listening to you, you need to tell them, I'm concerned about this. It is a physician's responsibility to listen to your concerns. Because if we don't, as healthcare providers, we could misdiagnose someone. So your physician, whether he or she likes it or not, And a lot of them now know that that's the expectation. Screenings need to be done. Please have one done, even if it's just a baseline. So the screenings are when you enroll in Medicare, 65 years old and older, right? So you can have that screening done, and you can have it as a baseline. For example, smokers. If you've been a former smoker, they're going to want to do a chest x-ray for a baseline. Is there a mass in there or not? Well, let's do that for cognitive. Why not? We're talking about a major organ, right? Our brain. So why not have the screening done? So work with your physician or your nurse practitioner and get the screening done yearly to kind of see where you're at. Okay?
This is going to jump to something pretty specific, but
Okay.
let's, and let me just add this by saying, in preparation for next month's seminar about caregiving, so these two overlap a lot, support each other, but I have for the last few weeks been interviewing people who I had known through as real estate clients who at the time we were working on the sale of their home. Most of these people had a spouse who was needing, they were providing care for, not always memory, I mean, there were a variety. But as I was in the last couple of weeks visiting with these people, some are here, but what can I learn from them? As I worked with these people, I kept thinking, how do you handle this? And so we're going to hear more from caregivers next month that will, follow up on this. But as you were talking about, let's talk with the doctor. One of the questions I have is, how do we approach our loved one with some of these concerns? And as I was doing some research about this, some of the things I was seeing, how can we figure this out together, not pointing the fingers? I know it's scary. I've made these observations. Are there some other, and I know this gets down to very particular, but people want specifics. Is that?
So I'm going to talk about two different roles. And for those of us who are married and have been married for a long time, you know your spouse better than anyone, right? You know what they're like in the morning or in the evening, what they don't like. So you know your spouse more than anyone because you're living with that person. So when you start seeing changes, I want to make sure that the environment that you have these discussions are appropriate. If there's children involved, you can talk to your children about it. But here's a couple of things. Remember when we took our vows and said, in sickness and in health, right? Right? That was part of our wedding vows. This is a very intimate conversation to have with your spouse. I am concerned about what I'm seeing. And you pick the time that is appropriate. Is your spouse more alert during the daytime, during the morning hours, or is it the afternoon? It is not appropriate to do it at a family gathering, a celebration, a birthday party, Christmas. And the reason for that is there's too many distractions. This is such a personal question to ask someone or to have that conversation. It needs to be loving and compassionate. If somebody is already doing the same thing over and over and you're up to here, that is not the time to talk about it. Because they're going to shut down and they're not going to listen to you because you're not listening to them. And in their world, it's not happening. Do you see what I'm saying? We want to be compassionate people. This is a very hard, it was hard to talk about it with my mother-in-law. It was very hard to talk about it. And in time, she was more open to it. And she's a very loving lady, was a very loving lady. We lost her 2 years ago. But it was a hard conversation. The other thing with children, we want to kind of jump in and help mom and dad, right? Let me take control of the situation, right? Nope, they're still your parents, right? So you want to approach your children and say, if you have children, they're grown children, and you want them to help, just let them know what is it that you need. Because you're still the parent, right? That is still your role. But what happens is that sometimes children step in when a crisis situation happens, and then they want to take over complete control. And I'm not saying that that is wrong. what I'm saying is that you need to be involved in the conversation. That is your right as a senior. And if you don't believe me that we have elderly rights, go to the Lieutenant Governor's website, and it is right there. It's called Elderly Rights. You have the right to be involved in your plan of care as a senior. You have a right to do that. Now, sometimes decisions aren't made appropriately, but that's okay. We'll work with that. But you'll always have a right to say about your care.
That is so critical. We talk about that in different ways. As seniors, we're wanting to stay in control. And for those of you interested in psychology, we saw those 2-year-olds, I'm going to do it my way, I'm going to be in control or whatever. Teenagers, seniors, we're losing control in a variety of ways. We may be losing friends, our physical condition is changing. The way we stay in control, being autonomous, is having the information and speaking up. And that's one of the reasons for these seminars. It's how I can make these decisions. The more that we communicate with our family about what we know and how prepared we are, we can stay in control and make our wishes known. I've probably shared this story before, but I keep thinking of a woman who used to attend our seminars. She had the good fortune, given the situation, she knew something was changing. She lived by herself. I don't know all that went on. She called her stepson, lived in South Austin, and said, I need you to come here. I'll come next week. No. She had the presence. I need you to come now. He sensed there was something going on. He came to visit with her, and she was very prepared. I don't know all the conversation, but he was recounting this with me at different times. And last week we closed on the sale of her home, and we were talking about how fortunate it was that she was able to say to him, this is who you call. Here is my attorney. Here is my, she went through her list. I thought it was nice that I was her realtor. So he'd called me. We already had a relationship because of her. And he was able to let her know, and we sold the house. But because it was easier on him, instead of like, here I am, what do I do? Everything, and that's the reason, and we're going to talk about support team. We're leading into that. And, one of the pages you get in your binder, who are these people? So the more that we're prepared, and then we share that information, your wishes are being carried out. That's another way I think of when we say living a fulfilled life. This lady, unfortunately, is memory care, but her wishes were carried out because she had planned ahead and communicated that. But let's go ahead with support team. What do we need to have in place to help us?
Yeah, that's a good one. Before we stray too much, I just want to say on the conversation about the concern of the memory loss, it's not a one-time deal. You don't have the conversation one time and move on. It has to be done gradually over a period of time. Make sure that that person is comfortable with the conversation, right? And then, of course, if you want to have your family involved, that's also appropriate, but it is not a one-time conversation. Now, sometimes when people...
Let me just say one thing about that, too, Justine. Back to what you mentioned earlier, and that whole idea of if we form this openness communication, we're in this together, we want to make the best of this. There's a whole different mindset than that negative, it's happening to me. I just think when I watch people who I marvel at how, whether it be a spouse or a family member who has supported them, but they're on a journey together. A gentleman the other day said, well, I thought this was going to be our forever home. But health conditions changed. We need to make a change. And he could be very negative about it, but he's off enjoying his new home. And that's because they made the decision. And his was not memory or cognitive, it was motor. But all of that being in control.
That's right. Now, when all of us, we kind of look at as we age, at some point, we're all going to need help. I'm going to need help. My husband's going to need help at some point. We're all going to need help at some point. And that's because our body is aging, right? The knees are kind of the first to go. Then, of course, the eyes. We have problems with vision. But we're all going to need help at some point. And there's some people that are resistant to help. And that brings up another topic. But one of the first things that I do in practice is when I go and talk to a family, I ask them, and this is going towards the support care team, who do you call on to help you? Who's part of your support care team? Now, those of you who have a little, your notebook and a pen, here's what I want you to do. Write down 2 people that you know right now that you can call on and say, I need help with this. Who are those 2 people? Is it your children? Are they your friends? Who are those 2 people? Here's another one.
Hey, can I ask you a question about that? So when you say, who do I call on when I need help? Is that, I need physical help, I need someone to come help me, get someone, whatever, or I need someone to talk to? Does all of that
All of
count?
the above. I need help getting my husband to the doctor. Can you help me with transportation? I need help. Can you go pick up a prescription for me? Because I can't leave him alone. He had surgery today, and I really need to keep an eye on him. Who is that person? I need help. Can you pick up some, laundry or cleaner item for me because they're going to close, and I really need it, and I can't get out because I'm taking care of my husband or my wife. Who is that person? I need help to just someone to come and sit with him for a few hours. Who is that? Who is that person that you can trust coming into your home? Who is that? If you don't have somebody, start thinking about that. This is assembling your support care team, right? Now, I do want to mention this. Virginia and Vince have done a nice job. You got all these services right here. Have you interviewed any of them? Because that could be part of your support team. Have you toured any of these communities and asked the hard questions? What kind of care do you provide? Because we're all going to need care as we age, right? So part of your support care team, who's your attorney? That's part of your support care team. Who has those legal documents? What about your church? Does your church know what is happening to you if you wish to disclose that information? Do they know that you need prayers? Do they know that you need food or a home-cooked meal brought in from time to time? Do they know that? Do they know that maybe you need to have, I'm Catholic, communion brought in? That was very important to one of my clients. That's part of your support care team. Senior resources, Faith in Action, community resources, Georgetown Area Parkinson Support Group. These are all part of your support care team. There's also the medical side, your doctor, your physical therapist, your occupational therapist, your speech therapist. Those are part of your support care team. Now, when I'm in practice, what I usually do is I give my clients a notebook, and that notebook is organized. And then I put little information, those business cards you can get at Office Depot, that's where I buy them. And I get them, and I said, I want you to get every card of every person that's taking care of your husband. And we put them in there. And I said, now I want you to tell me what each one of them does. Well, I'm not sure what this one does. I said, well, I think that's the neurologist. And of course, that's what the card says. You need to know the names of those people. Because if you go into the hospital, they're going to ask you who that is, and you just take your notebook with you, and there's the information, right? And the list of medications. So we develop a notebook and a plan for emergency situations as well. Your support care team is made up of a variety of people involved with the care. You should never take this journey on your own. It is impossible to do. The research shows that it takes about 12 people to take care of one person with memory loss. 12 people. And I'm pretty sure I went gray fast because I had to do a lot with my family. But, that's what it is. And it takes about 12 people, right? I had to pay people to come in and help relieve my sister and I from caring for my mom, who was pretty advanced in her disease. And I had to make sure that that was a safe person. We had to get meals brought in from the church. Well, we had to get family members bring in meals and relieve us on the weekends. That was part of our support care team. So who is that involved? If you have your attorney, put that on there. That's part of your support care team. Community resources, professionals, occupational therapy, physical therapy, that's part of your support care team. But we don't think of them that way. We think of them as services out there. No, they are services for you to support you on this journey. Everybody okay with that one? That's how we're supposed to do it? We are here for you. We are here for you. You should not be going through this on your own, right? We are connected in many ways.
I want to pick up on one of your statements, and I appreciate your calling out the importance of our educational resource area. Get to know these people. I know some of you have done an amazing job. When I hear you telling about your experiences, well, I went over and visited with them, and now I know this. And in fact, I shared it with my neighbor. One that came to my mind, it's a good example. We've got communities here and more, and we often hear, but I'm not ready. I don't need that now. I don't need that list. I don't need that support team now.
I have an answer for that. So I have an answer for that. You knew I would, didn't you? You knew I would have an answer for that. So here's my thing. When I'm in practice and I meet with the family and I say, okay, so let's plan for the journey. Okay, so let's just pick on Ash over there, Come4Care for a minute. So we take a little rack card that she has, and I say to the family, I want you to think about if you were to bring in somebody for your care, let's say 4 hours a week, once a week, how much would that cost? What about twice a week? What about 3 times a week? How much would that cost? Right there, you are planning for the journey, because you're figuring out your budget and how much it's going to cost you to care for your loved one. You don't have to sign up, but you know her. You know what her fees are. You know what kind of insurance she might take, VA. She's telling you that. You put that in your budget, right? You put that in the financial portion of your care planning journey, right? Those are things that are going to cost you money. What about a private caregiver? You got visiting angels over there. How much does that cost a month? If you were to get somebody in your home 2 or 3 times, don't wait until you need it. Figure it out how much it's going to cost you, because healthcare is expensive. People lose money caring for individuals. There's a fact sheet on your handout of how much unpaid caregiving we will do for our loved ones. Right? And then there's also the cost of bringing in care. Even me. Figure me into the budget. How much is it going to cost you for me to service and work with you? All these things, don't wait until a crisis happens. Get to know them. Here's one thing I'm very proud of one of the caregivers. They figured out way ahead of time where they wanted to move and what kind of services they wanted. They didn't know by name. So I sat with them and I said, okay, well, let's plan this out. And I said, I want you to interview them, all 3 of them. You don't have to sign up. You just interview them. Get an idea how much it's going to cost you. You do that when you go buy a car. Why not for health care? What are they going to do for you, right? And then they figured out, well, we're not ready to move out, but we might be in 5 years. Okay, let's plan for that. Do you have a financial person working with you? A financial advisor working with you? A certified financial advisor. And your banks might offer that, or USAA might offer that, or someone else might offer that who's out there, Charles Schwab, some other big names. How much are they going to cost you to figure out how long? Let's say you live another 10 years. What does that look like? If you move into a community, I'm going to pick on the Oscar. If you move into a community, Medicare does not pay for that. If you have long-term insurance, how much do they cover and for how long? If you live 15 years at the Oscar, what does that look like? These are real tough conversations that we have at our kitchen table with the clients. We look at the cost of planning for the journey because we want you to live a great life, right? We still want you to live a high-quality life. And you can at a pretty place like the Oscar, but you got to figure out how much that's going to cost you for how long. And you're hoping that you have enough money, because if there's a spouse alive, you've got to think about their financial stability as well.
And, as we look, I'm going to put a plug in for the September seminar, Securing Your Legacy Financial Strategies for the Future. So, I just plan ahead how these do connect. Yes, we've got options. We have partners who help us with the financial part. Wow, a lot is going on. And as we always tell our panelists, yes, we have our own businesses, and outstanding. And we also know that we are, to a degree, representing the industry. And so you're representing senior care managers. Yes,
Geriatric care managers.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm used to senior movement. So tell us a little bit. And again, yours is outstanding, but what does we have, and some of us have had coaches, whether it be for our business, our training, or whatever. Sounds like you're a coach for moving through this phase of life. Is that kind of?
Yeah. So I wouldn't want to use the word coach, but you can call me coach if you want to. So I am a part of a group that is called an Aging Life Care Professional. I'm a registered nurse, and I've gone through a lot of training, especially in geriatrics and care management. So Aging Life Care Association, and I gave you a link to that. You can go online and you can type in your zip code and find a care manager. The National Institute of Health recommends care managers, geriatric care managers, to work with the senior population to resolve senior issues. We're one of the professions that is highlighted by the National Institute of Health. Geriatric care managers, that's the old name. The new name is Aging Life Care Expert. They can be nurses, social workers. They can also be a person that has a degree in gerontology. Those are the ones that are specifically for geriatric care management. So I'm a nurse, and I study in the field of caring for seniors. So there's a whole group, and this was started probably really highlighted in the 1980s, but it's been going on for many, many years before that, because as a discipline in nursing and social work, we have always taken care of seniors. And you see case managers in the hospitals. Case managers work for the hospital industry. They work for the insurance companies in several ways. They make sure that you're discharged appropriately. They make sure they know where you're going to head out, right? They communicate with the physician, and they work with the team within the hospital. So that's a case manager. Geriatric care managers work out in the community, and they follow the client as long as the client wants that service or needs the service. So those are the difference between the two. And I'm happy to say that, so my thrust into Alzheimer's care started in '92. So, and over the years, I've been around this realm of care since 1992, since my mother was diagnosed. And so there are more care managers out there. There's also care managers that work as guardians. They can serve as a guardian. I don't do that because I don't have a big team. But there are care managers that work. They work with attorneys. They work with the courts. So there's a lot of care managers that do that type of work. In Austin, they're my friends. I know them. Mir Consulting Service is one of the bigger ones. They're well established, 20, 30 years. The other one is Care4. Debbie Pearson is a friend. She's a colleague. If I can't handle a certain case that's way in South Austin, I just hand it over to them and say, hey, here's a contact, because we want to make sure that seniors get appropriate care. So, and I just truly believe that the people that need me, know about me, they'll enter in my path. I truly believe that. There's no way I can serve, 2,000 seniors that might have this disease in Georgetown. So, but what I want to say is that we're trained for this specific type of caring for seniors, helping them financially plan. Also talk about end-of-life care. I'm big on that. That's part of my care plan with everyone that I work with. Is let's talk about what that looks like. what your end-of-life care planning is. Do you have a money manager? Do you have somebody who can manage your money in case you can't do that? I don't handle that because, as you can see, it would be a little bit of a conflict of interest. But do you have a money manager? They're out there. There's an association, and I listed it on your little paper. I spent a lot of hours putting that together, and these are the resources that I use frequently. There's one called American something Daily Managers Association. I know like 3 people on that association. You can go there, type in your zip code, and find one if you're concerned about your money, right? There's wealth managers out there. Where is Scott? Scott, yeah, that's another person you can just have a consultation with. So there's a lot of resources for you. So here's the question. Where do you start? Who do you go to first, right? So, first the doctor, family, right? Got to let the kids know if you're up for that. You all know your kids, right? Who can handle it, who can't. And then community resources. Always keep it simple. I tell people, get a Spiral notebook. Spiral notebook, HEB, Office Depot, doesn't matter. Get it? Whoever you talk to, write down their name and their date, phone number. How do I contact them? If they have a business card, rack cards, grab them, read them. Put that on there. I might contact them. That's a plan. And then you start calling these services. You would do that for buying a car. You would research what kind of car you would want. Mileage, is it safe? Why can't we do that for our own health, right? We really need to do some research.
So I think often we're worried about, wow, what amazing resources, but how much is even, okay, bottom line. If someone wanted to visit with you, and yes, you have a business, do you do consultations with people to see if there's a match or?
Yeah, so
I'm not trying to make a sales pitch for her business. However, we need to have information.
Yeah, so sometimes, and this is real, I get a call and they'll say, I need someone to come and help bathe my husband for 3 hours and then watch him. And then I'm like, oops, that sounds like a job for Comfort Care or Visiting Angels or somewhere else. I never turn down a phone call for this reason. They need help. This is a member of my community, and I'm going to address that. So I always give a 30-minute free consultation. Doesn't cost you anything. I'm not going to call you back. I'm not going to send you a flyer. That's not me. But I will ask you, what is it that's going on in your home? Because if you're not safe, I'm going to take action in some way. As a nurse, right, I need to know, are you safe? And it could be as simple as, well, my husband's going to have surgery, and we don't know really what to do, what kind of help he needs. And then I do tell them about my service, but I also tell them, I don't think this is what you need now, but here are some people that you might consider calling. I always give them 2 or 3 options. Let me make this very clear. I work for you. I work for my client. I don't accept commissions from anyone. I don't take commissions from anyone. And I say that because it goes against our code of ethics as nurses and care managers. So I work strictly for my client. And so when somebody calls me and they tell me, I just need help for like 2 or 3 hours, and it's usually activities of daily living, some kind of hygiene, showering, or feeding, I know exactly who to call on because I know I cannot provide that service. That's not what I do. But I'm not just going to say, no, that's not what I do and hang up. I guide them through, and I tell them, and if they don't call you back or you didn't get what you needed, just call me back. And I give them other community resources. Why not? This is a neighbor in my community that needs help. So that's how I do it. I'm not speaking for everybody else. But if you call my number, I will try to guide you in the right path. Also, during the 30-minute pre bono consultation is, do you need a care manager? Some people want to plan ahead of time, and I work with them. And then some people need constant care management, and I work with them. I have a client that I've had on service for over a year. She's very stable. She's doing great, loves her life. Hey, she's having a blast, right? So it just depends where you need me and where you are almost, done with the service. Okay?
So yes, we have tremendous resources and within our community, and in fact, we're going to next month we're going to hear more about the resources, and we're going to hear from caregivers, kind of the where the rubber meets the road, some of the challenges, and you know it will be a little bit different. It'll be applying some of this. And speaking of resources, I bet I will see a number of you this afternoon over at First Baptist for the GAPS Vendor Fair. We kind of travel in groups, so I've heard, yes, Mary Jane Berry is here today, founder of the GAPS, and so I know several of the partners. Oh, I'll see you this afternoon, and I know several of you attendees will be there to a chance to get those resources. We want to, oh, that's right, I about did it in the wrong order. Oh, thank you. Georgetown Area Parkinson Support Group. Did I get it right? Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to invite questions from you in just a minute. But before that, I want to really thank Josie for her, I think, very candid sharing with us. And I hope you found that helpful. I also want to call attention in your packet. Of course, you've got your action steps there, and these are building on some of the points Josie made. Take time to think about what are my next steps. We're really committed to making a difference for people. We come, we listen. That was entertaining. That was fun. You go out the door. We hope you don't go, but you think about it. You take action. You look at who is it I would call on if I need that. What action do you need to take to go and get educated? So that's in there. There's also the little, the page, bright green, I think. Is that it? The feedback form? Please fill that out and leave that at the table. You know, and this is, we look at that, we gain information from people. I didn't think about this in time to put it on there, so Vince is going to slap my hand. But last night I thought, as a follow-up to this, and in preparing for the next one about navigating the caregiving journey, I would love for you to think, what's a burning question you have that you would like to ask a caregiver? You know, sometimes we have those questions, but we really don't want to raise our hand and ask somebody. It might be a stupid question, that's too, whatever. And we won't even associate your name on the form with the question. But if you have those burning questions, I would like for us to be able to put those together to share with our panelists next month. Did I get those announcements? And then we'll get questions and answers? Okay, thank you. I have to get my approval from Vince, so my bumper guard and more. Okay. Go for it.
So as a service to my community, I have paired up with the Hospice Foundation of America and Pennsylvania College of Medicine. And they're doing a research study, and I applied for it and was vetted, you know, all this other stuff. Anyway, it is called Project Talk, and it's a conversation about advanced care planning. It's going to be held at the Public Library on June 28th. We have flyers about it. It's a free service. It's a research study, and they're going to have, we need about 20 to 25 people. Right now, we have a low count of 5. But it's free, and it's just to start the conversation about advanced care planning. So if you haven't done advanced care planning in the last 5 years, or if you're naive to advanced care planning, which means you've never done it, this would be a good conversation to have, and this is a free service to the public. I'm not a philanthropist, but I truly believe in serving my community, and I'm trying very hard to bring in educational programs that are free, that are worthy, that can improve the lives of seniors. So this is a free event, and we have information at the table if you'd like to sign up for it.
Great. And then we had a session earlier about advanced care planning. Amy Scott was here and others. So again, some of us go, well, I keep hearing these topics. That's the idea. You know, we kind of circle around, and different places, different times, we hear different things based on where we are in our journey. So let's open this up. What questions do you have? Yes, Don Garby.
Yes. What is the cost of your services, and is it generally covered by long-term care insurance policies?
So it depends on if you're a veteran or not. So I give a discount, a little bit of a discount for this service. We can talk about that privately.
Let's just even ballpark general figure, and maybe there's too much variation.
No, so I charge $150 an hour. If you're a veteran, it's $125. And people gasp when I say that. And the reason being, I do run a company, but I don't really see much of that money. But here's the thing. Some other care managers are over that amount, so I try to keep it somewhat reasonable for our area. And when I first started the business, I did kind of a market analysis, and that's kind of the running rate. But here's the thing. I do work with families. Again, I'm not a philanthropist. I don't have $1 million. I'm not Elon Musk level income, but I do believe in serving my community. And that is my fee. And it's expensive when people call in a crisis. I have to spend more time with you. But if you call earlier, then the price goes down because we're putting things placed together, and then I don't have to see you as often. And if you feel comfortable, I'm done, we're finished. We've done what we need to do.
Long-term care insurance.
No, long-term care insurance, here's one. I need to tell you this. If you are a Baylor Scott and White patient, they have care managers that can serve you for free, but you need to ask for the service. I have some people that come back and say, I didn't like that service, I just want to work with you because you come into my home and see what's going on. And I do that. I go and evaluate your home. I do a home safety check. I look at how you can get in and out of the house, how you can get in and out of the car. Do we need to have OT brought in? Do we need to have PT brought in? I look at, are you safe in the house? Are there fire alarms that are working? What does your shower look like? Is it a low threshold or a high threshold? So take these services that you can get for free, go for it. For my services, some of the CPAs use, because I'm at a LLC in Texas, use my invoices as part of the caregiving cost. Now, I'm not saying that it's 100% shoe-in, but you have to work with the CPA of saying, I paid this geriatric care manager this amount of money, here's the invoices, and here's her plan of care, because that has to be part of it. You have to have a plan of care. If I'm serving you, I got to tell you, this is our roadmap. This is what you're paying me to do. We're talking about this. Those things can help because it's health care related. So you want to check with your CPA if that can be part of it.
I'm going to put a plug in for another seminar, too. You mentioned preparing our home for aging in place. Many of us, that's our goal, to stay in our homes as long as we can. And sometimes we need to do an assessment of our homes. And so that will be our seminar on August 14th. And this time our goal is we're going to talk more about, are there simple modifications? Anyway, we do this topic over the years, but each time it has a little different focus. And so just heads up about that. And assessments, is our environment safe and so on, for more the physical living environment. Are we tripping over rugs or animals or whatever? So, okay.
Electrical cords, yeah, that's
Electrical
a big one.
cords, oh yeah.
Did I answer your question, sir? Okay, you're welcome.
Anyone
Anyone else?
Other questions?
Budget, you got to look at the budget. Healthcare's it's not cheap, right?
Well, okay. Catherine, Vince is bringing you a mic.
Pretty loud. I thought everybody would hear that. Can you go into what you do interfacing with medical
on?
professionals on behalf of your client?
Okay, so that's a big one. So
repeat her question.
So
Laura.
she's asking, what do I do kind of communicating or collaborating with the medical team?
Oh.
And that's a big one, and I do quite a bit with that one. So if a client becomes unstable, because I go in and check on them, what the family approves the frequency. If I say to a family, they're not doing real well, would you agree for me to go in twice a week or once a week? If the family says yes, or they'll say, I'll do it, okay, this is what you need to look for. So I work with the family. But I actually communicate with the provider. HIPAA forms are signed so that I can have access to information about my client. And as a nurse, I know those rules. So I can call the nurse practitioner and say, this is what's going on. This is what my client has these symptoms. This is new for this client. We need to, kind of take action. What are your thoughts? And so they grab information and they call the client. And then I'll say, I think we need to look at PT or OT, or I think we need to go back in, or maybe look at getting some blood drawn because this is what I'm seeing. I'm not diagnosing, but I'm seeing as a nurse what needs to be reported to that medical provider, nurse practitioner or doctor, neurologist. I've talked to them. And I actually go and attend medical appointments with the client in the doctor's office. And I said to the doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a geriatric care manager. They know exactly what that is. And they'll say, oh, good. And they'll start talking to both of us. And before they leave, they said, the doctor will ask me, are you going to come back with them? And I'll say yes. If they want me to, I will. But I let the families talk to the physician, and then I intervene when things are missed or I think we need to really highlight some things that are going on.
I want to just emphasize that the number of times when we go to a physician, or I remember my mother would go when I lived out of town, I would talk to her about it. It was, what did the doctor say? What does that mean? Some of us, it's like, ooh, there's a disconnect with the communication. And Josie, with her background, again, with your background in nursing, you just bring such a different perspective. And so bridging that gap, translating can be important.
And I also play a role in end-of-life care planning. So if the client is at a point where we know this is a discussion we need to have, and it's part of the plan of care, I arrange for the nurse practitioner, the client who has the memory issue, the family, anybody else they want in the room, and we have a meeting. And we ask the client, what are your wishes? What are your wishes? Do you want to be put on a machine or have a feeding tube? Or how far do you want to go if something in a crisis situation happens? And a lot of the times, even people with memory loss, they'll tell you, I don't want to die in the hospital. Got it. Let's write that down. That's part of the directive to physician. And the nurse practitioner heard it, I heard it, and the community heard it, whoever's involved in there, and the children heard it. Now we all know.
And
That
then-
is end-of-life care planning, is having that big discussion.
And the person is maintaining their control,
And their
making
dignity.
their wishes known. I'm staying in control. And often have seen families, I don't know what mother would want. Let's get it planned for. And easier said than done, I realize, but at least it's a start.
And then I run around town and make sure every physician that's on that person's list has the medical directives, the out-of-hospital DNR, any other documents that need to be in that person's chart. I go and make sure and distribute all that to the appropriate people.
Other questions?
Any other questions? I want, go ahead.
Connie?
Your phone number, the one that's listed here under
No.
No, so my phone number is on the business card, 512, the 456, that's my phone number. It is also listed with the Aging Life Care Association. So if you have Mary Beth will hand out my business card, that's my assistant, it's on there. And it's at the bottom. I do have a small office here in Georgetown off of Quail Valley Road. It's on East Side. It's actually kind of a virtual office, but I can reserve office space there to meet with clients if they don't want me to go in their home. I do want to tell you this. I will not take a client. I will not take a client if the families tell me I don't want him or her to know about you. I don't want them to know what you're going to do. I am not the care manager for you. The client has the right to know who I am. And when I come into the room, I tell them, my name is Josie, and I give them the card. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm a geriatric care manager. And I've even had people tell me, are you here to take me away? And I said, no. I'm here to make sure we listen to what you want
Wow,
and
that's
how you want to be
important.
cared for.
So when you ask about the phone number on the Care Partner to Caregiver, which is the name of her business, the resources that she assembled is in your handouts. On the bottom there, it does give her phone number. And it's a cell phone. Oh, it's the office phone, no text, leave a message.
Yeah, no, don't text me.
Yeah.
That's a HIPAA thing. Don't text me.
Other
Okay. Anything else? I do want to give a shout out to the Georgetown Area Parkinson's Support Group. They offer so many classes, and we have a high population of people living with Parkinson's. Please attend those. They're free, and they serve the community, our community, quite well.
And I want to pick up on that. I think everybody who has anything with Parkinson's must be aware of it. I'm always surprised when I find out someone does not. But I think what's critical, what I've learned, when I first heard about it, and all this was new to me in the last few years of doing these seminars, I thought, oh, a support group. It's going to be a downer. It's going to be, oh, poor me. Guess what? I don't know about any other, but GAPS is not a downer. It is motivational. Get out there and do whatever you can do, dancing, boxing, and so on. When someone says, oh, no, it's not for me, I cringe. I go, but you could be doing so much more. So take advantage of that. We're going to hear more about them next month, too. So let's see. Vince, anything else that any more? One more. Oh, there's a question. Helen.
I had something to share about the early stages of memory loss. Our neighbor has a couple have her mother living with them, and they have discovered a wonderful group in Austin called Love Notes.
Mm-hmm.
And they take their mom in every so often, once a week or so, to rehearse, and they sing together, and they put on concerts, and it's very upbeat. They sing happy songs, and everybody in the choir is either a memory loss patient or their caregiver. Mm-hmm. And we went to one of their concerts. It was the most delightful thing, and they let each group, either the patient or their caregiver, share something about why they like this song, beforehand. And it treats them with respect and dignity, and it produces a wonderful little concert. So just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, and that's a very important program. That was started, I think it was pre-COVID, and then right when COVID hit, they did a virtual program of it. It's amazing. So music, right side of the brain, music is very helpful in memory issues. It is very helpful in memory issues. Tony Bennett is our perfect example. He had almost end-stage Alzheimer's, but he could sing. He could remember
Glenn
his
Campbell,
songs.
too.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that. And then the other thing I do want to mention is that as you begin to kind of explore these options, I'm asking you as a neighbor, don't go at this alone. Please, there's a lot of people here that want to help you and can serve you. I just have a heartache when I hear that someone was not helped or they died alone and there was nobody around. That is, to me, almost inhumane. So please don't go at this alone.
Helen, I want to make sure that we get that Love Notes contact information in our feedback that you'll be getting. Vince will be sending out. I think that would be a good resource for us to make people aware of. And I just, when we talk about, I just have to share this story. When we talk about music, and there have been a lot of great documentaries about the power of music and how with people dealing with some form of dementia. So, when you experience something firsthand, I had one of my cousins, her husband had Parkinson's, Lewy body syndrome, and I don't know if it was his 80th, probably his, I don't know, whatever birthday it was, and he was at a community, I think, in Lakeway, and we went down for his birthday celebration. And it was such a neat experience. They brought in some small country western group or whoever, and they're setting up. And if you've been in these communities, you know, there are often people kind of sitting there. And that music started, and those people came alive. I mean, I'd seen it on the documentaries, but to be in the room with them and to watch my cousin's husband, it's like, John, I mean, you know, the clapping, and they were, so, you know, and that's one of the things sometimes, the power of being in a community. And like Truewood has a memory care wing there. Oscar, you all have memory care too, I believe. We're going to talk more next month about, you know, researching some of that. But, you know, how do we support people where they are? Okay, I think that got our questions. Vince, do we need something else from you? You're going to remind them?
Make sure they sign.
You tell them.
Yeah, thank you again for just in advance for filling out the feedback form. As Virginia said, somebody did leave feedback on making sure that you had, you know, three-hole punch, and we did that. So we do read these, but make sure that if you want to be registered, you just make sure you just sign at the bottom there. Just make sure you put your name. Okay, thank you.
And we always give you that reminder. We know you. We want to know you. We get names and faces together, but it's hard to recognize a check in the checkbox when someone says register me, but there's no name. We're good, but we're not that good. So when people say, "Oh, but well, anyway, we won't argue with you about it. But please put your name on there." I again want to thank you.
No, just thank you, the audience. You've been very attentive. I appreciate it. I know it's tough, but I'm happy that I was asked to speak because I know it's a difficult subject. And just come by and say hi. We don't have to talk about memory loss if you don't want to, but you are my neighbor, and I'd like to get to know you. Thank you.
So we hope to see you on July 10th when we're going to hear more about the caregiving aspect. Stay cool and safe and visit our great educational partners. Thanks for being here.